Hi, this is Brian with ActiveMelody.com. In this week's guitar lesson, we're going to go old school and learn an R&B style lead that's so much fun to play. It's such an expressive way of playing, and you really feel like, or I really feel like I'm singing with my fingertips when I play this way. And I'm going to show you how to do it. I'm going to show you everything that I played, the intro, note for note, and break all that down. But more importantly, I'll give you the boundaries that we're working within. So you'll see that most of this is played over the A major pentatonic scale, even though there's an A chord, a B minor chord, a D chord, and then that kind of weird F chord, which is a nice, I think it's a nice twist anyway. But I'll show you what to play over those chords. I wanted to make this lesson sort of a dedication. I've never done this really, but one of the Active Melody site members, Phil, his girlfriend Lisa is going through a hard time right now, and just wanted to dedicate this to you, Lisa. In fact, I will call this lesson "Lovely Lisa." I think that was the name of a forum post that Phil had created, and I thought, man, that would be kind of a nice name for a song. I know it's not a whole song; it's just sort of a part of something, but I wanted to dedicate this to Lisa and just let you know that we, the Active Melody community, we're pulling for you and we're thinking about you. So I've got this lesson split into two parts. In this video, we're going to take a look at that first half. If you'd like to watch the second half, as well as download the MP3 jam track so you can practice, and the tablature, you can get all of that at ActiveMelody.com. Just look for EP174. So let's go ahead and get started with part one. Alright, so let's talk through chord structure for this, and then we'll get into all the specific notes. And remember, your takeaway is to understand how all these pieces fit together so that you can put on this jam track, you can play what I'm about to show you, but then you can improvise. That's really where learning happens, is when you're able to do that. So this is in the key of A, and there's 4 chords in this, and this follows the A major scale. So the major scale is Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Ti, Do. Sounds like that, and that's something that we all kind of know by ear. So the 1 chord is always a major chord when you're following the structure of the major scale. The 2 chord in this case, which is the next chord in this, is a B minor chord, and the 2 and the 3 chords are always minor. So you have your major, there's your minor. Now we're going to skip the 3 chord and we go to the 4 chord, which is a D. That's also a major. So we have the 1, the 2, we have the 4. Now the next chord is the weird one. That's where I went to an F, and you can hear that it sounds out of place. It sounds like just a fish out of water, and the reason that is because it's not part of the major scale. So if you look at the notes of the major scale, there's an F sharp, but there's not an F. So what I did was I took that F sharp and I flatted that to make an F. Now why would I do that? Well, you hear that in some songs. Well, you actually hear that kind of thing happen quite a bit, and it's just to keep the song interesting. It kind of throws you for a loop. Everything sounds pretty predictable here. Now what you would expect is to go to an E chord and then back, right? You've heard that a million times. But to go to the F, it just has a nice little extra twist. I always try and work in a chord like that if I can, and as long as the band's doing it, so in this case the jam track is your band, the bass does it, the keyboard, and all the accompanying instruments do it, then it works. And it makes it a lot more interesting to solo over because you've got that extra little twist in there. Now here's an extra takeaway if you want from this lesson. If you ever want to work in a traditional, even like a 12-bar blues, if we were doing a shuffle blues in G, for example, you go to the 1 chord, the 4 chord. Now, typically you go to the 5 chord, but you could go, you can go up a semitone. So if your 5 chord in this case would be a D7 or D9. If you go up a half step and then back down, you go to back to the 1 chord. It's just little things like that. I mean, that's kind of an obvious one, but it's taking a chord that wouldn't normally work there, but kind of making it work because it's just more interesting. Okay, so that's the structure. You got the A, B minor, D, and F. Now, what do I play over that? Well, I'm playing the A major pentatonic scale for the first 3 chords. which makes it easy. You have, a couple different paths, and I've gone over this in previous lessons. When you're approaching a solo, you can go minor pentatonic, which gives you more of a bluesy feel. You can go major pentatonic, which gives you more happy, positive, country, Allman Brothers-y type feel. Or you can play along with the chord changes and change the scales as the chords change. But in this case, we're just going to stay in the key. So we're going to, even though there's different chords going on, we're not going to worry about that. We're going to stay in the A major pentatonic scale. That makes it easier. That's kind of soloing 101. If for those of you that are just getting started, that's where you want to be. Just find the key that a song is in. Don't worry about what the chords are. Just stay in the key, and you can solo all day long. And you can start to make that work just by staying within the boundaries. All right, so the way that we count this in, you go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. And that's where you'd start the lead. So I'm counting in that first measure. You can kind of skip that. But if we're going right into the measure where we start playing, it's 1 and 2 and. So you're starting the lead on the and of 2. So think of it that way as you're trying to count this in. Now what I'm doing, as I mentioned, I'm in the A major pentatonic scale. So to get there, well, let's find there's our A major chord. So where are we barring? We're barring on the 5th fret. That becomes our root fret. And that means that if I'm playing right here, I'm in pattern 1 of the minor pentatonic scale. That's where your bluesy stuff lives. If you don't know what I mean when I talk about minor pentatonic scale, major pentatonic scale, check out the blues lead course at Active Melody. But to get to the major, remember we go down 1, 2, 3 frets this way from any of the patterns that you'd want to play, and then you're going to be in the major pentatonic scale. It's nice to play in that major pentatonic because you've only got 5 notes to worry about. You don't have the full major scale. That would be 7 notes. But with the pentatonic, you can say a lot, and it just makes it easy when you're learning how to play lead. So we're down in this territory. So hopefully by now you know what our boundaries are for pattern 1, and we're going to start in pattern 1. So when I start that lead, I'm starting right down here on the 2nd fret, 5th string, and I do a hammer-on to the 4th fret, and then I jump up to the 4th string, fret 2, fret 4, so we got a little box going on. Then we're up on the 3rd string, fret 2, and then fret 4 again. So we have pretty easy to do that because it's just a little box pattern. Now from here, I slid up to the 6th fret, 3rd string. Now I could have went here, but I like the nuance of sliding and bending and having a more human voice quality. I think I mentioned that in last week's lesson as well. You'll find that as you become more comfortable in playing, you're going to want to emulate the human voice. It's just you hear it in your head, and you really are kind of singing. So that's what we're doing with this. So from this 4th fret, 3rd string, slide up to the 6th fret, and then we're going to do a half bend. Hear that? Just up 1 semitone. You don't want to do a full bend. That doesn't work. Just a half. Just a slight bend. Now the note you're playing is this note. If you think of the major scale, I know I said we're going to be in the major pentatonic scale, but this would be a note that is in the major scale. There's only 2 extra notes in the major scale, and that's one of them. Okay. And then I went. So it's a half bend, release, bend, release. It's got kind of a country pedal steel thing. And then after I did that bend, release, I slid back down to the 4th fret and then down to the 2nd fret. That's all on the 3rd string. Now you may want to do a pull-off on that. Some of this depends on what your effects you're using. I've got a pretty clean channel happening. And this is what I would do if I was doing this on an acoustic guitar. But if you've got a lot of, overdrive or something, you probably aren't even going to need to pick that other than one time and do a pull off there. So I'll leave that up to you if you want to pull that off or if you want to pick it. But try and hit the note anyway. And then I went. Now I slid up from the third string, 4th fret up to the 6th fret, down to the 2nd fret, and then back to the 4th fret. All that's on the 3rd string. Now why did I slide instead of bending? I could have bent that, and it would have given a different feel. Now that would be harder to do. It'd be very hard to do a full bend like that if you're doing this on an acoustic guitar. But when you slide, you get a little more of a jazzy feel, and it just changes it. This is all total opinion. So there's no right answer on this. If you wanted to even do a pre-bend release, you could do that to give it a different feel. But I just like that kind of thing. All right, so let's back up. We have 1 and 2. And then we're just going to hang out on that note, 4th fret, 3rd string, and just give it some vibrato there. And then I went, oh, by the way, this note, when I came up to this note, some of you are saying, hey, wait a minute, you're out of pattern 1. Well, you're right, I am out of pattern 1, but I'm in pattern 2. And so the next thing we're going to play, we're going to find, so these notes are in pattern 2. Just to, hopefully you're familiar with pattern 1 and 2. Pattern 1 is here, pattern 2 are these little 5 notes right here. It's just an extension of the minor pentatonic, or sorry, the major pentatonic scale. But that's where it is. So that's why that note is part of pattern 2. All right, now from here I went. Let's learn that. Hopefully this makes sense now, because you know that we're just going from pattern 1 up to pattern 2 just by doing that slide there. We're on the 6th fret 3rd string, and then I go to the 5th fret 1st string, 7th fret 2nd string, and then I put my middle finger back here on the 6th fret 3rd string rather, and I do a quick slide back down to the 4th fret. So it goes. Back down to the 2nd fret, then the 4th fret 4th string. So let's put all that together. We have. All right, let me back up from the beginning. 1 and 2. And then I went. Now that's a great little technique, because it's very soulful, and I find it easier to do. Now some people do this. I've seen this done 2 ways. Some people slide. That's what I do. But you can also do a hammer-on pull-off thing with your fingers. And that's really up to you as to which technique works best for you. I find it easier to slide it. You can get more momentum doing it that way. So I'm using my ring finger on the 4th fret 3rd string, sliding up to the 5th fret, back down. You'll see this notated in the tab. And then there's the 2nd fret. That's all on the 3rd string. And by the way, I'm just picking that once. Slide, slide, pull off. And then there's the 2nd time I'm picking it, which is the 4th fret 3rd string. Okay? All right. From the beginning. 1 and 2. 2, 3. And then I came up here and did I grabbed 2 strings. This is on the 5th fret, strings 1 and 2. Oop. Slid up to the 7th fret, back to the 5th fret. Now what is that I just did? What scale are we in? So remember, we got pattern 1 is here, pattern 2 is here. So these notes are very convenient, little slidable notes. You hear that in a lot of music. There's some Eagles songs where I know I've heard it. And that's what you're doing. You're just sliding around in the scale there. This is really happening in pattern 2. I guess that's probably the easiest way to think. Between the 5th fret and the 7th fret, you go back 5 to 7 and back to 5. Then I come down to the 6th fret 3rd string and slide down to the 4th fret on the 3rd string. 2nd fret 3rd string. There's the 4th fret 4th string, back to the 2nd fret 3rd string. Now, let me back up because what we're about to do from here is go to that weird F chord. And I'm going to switch scales at that point. But everything that I've been playing, all these little licks, have been in the major pentatonic scale for the key of A. Regardless of, even though there's a minor chord in there, it doesn't matter. We're staying in the key. And so if you want to improvise, so you can learn these licks, is a great way to kind of get you going. But then put the jam track on and see what other licks you can come up with in the major pentatonic scale. You know the boundaries. You can play any of the patterns. It's not just pattern 1 and 2, all the way up the neck. 3, 4, and 5 as well. All right, back from the beginning. I have 1 and 2. 2, 3. 2, 3. Now, this is where the song goes to the F, and I went, see. Now, what I did here was I switched, because the song switched key in such a dramatic way, I switched key as well to kind of match the drama. Now that's the kind of thing, if you were just playing with a group of guys on Friday night and some guy says, hey, here's a new song I wrote, and everyone's trying to pick along, you wouldn't know to do that. This would be something that you would have to have a little bit of prep on and know that chord is coming so that you can at least anticipate it and know where to go with it. So what I'm doing then is I'm just switching from the A major pentatonic scale to the A minor pentatonic scale. For that one measure where the chord is on the F. Now, why does this is the $1,000,000 question? Why does the A minor pentatonic scale work when you're playing an F chord? I'll be honest with you, I'm not 100% clear on that. I was trying to articulate that as I was prepping for this lesson, and I had a couple of thoughts. Maybe the Phrygian mode for F, and everything I came up with sounded too complicated. And so I like to try and keep these things simple. And one thing that I can kind of go to in my mind just to make it easy is, as I'm looking at the notes of the major pentatonic scale, and that chord that we're playing is a D chord right before the F. And then the D chord goes up 1, 2, 3 frets, right? Well, if you look at what I've done, I've kind of shifted 1, 2, 3 frets. And I'm playing now in the minor pentatonic scale. That's probably an easy way to describe it. But the one thing you can know is just play the A minor pentatonic scale over that F chord, and it's going to work. It's kind of I would love it if somebody would leave a comment as to the exact reason and even educate me, so I'll be able to articulate that in future lessons. But I would know how to do this instinctively when I'm playing, if I'm just improvising a solo. Now, like I said, if this was a Friday night and somebody was playing this song and they went to that F chord, it would probably throw anybody that's playing a lead. Just for a moment, you'd get lost. But then you could figure out, usually, as long as you stay in the key, so don't worry about the chords, just stay in the key, and then you would sort of self-adjust to figure out, is it major or minor? That's kind of where my brain always goes. Is it happy? Is it sad? And if all of a sudden I'm trying to play the happy stuff, which we've been doing, and it switches that chord, I would go to something a little more sad or dark And usually that formula works for me, unless there's some weird, now it changes to a different key and all the chords change or whatever. But in one chord that's different, you can throw in that minor pentatonic scale in a case like this, and it should work. So I went to minor pentatonic scale pattern 1 for A, which is right here, and I slid from the 5th fret to the 7th fret on the 4th string. Then I went to the 5th fret 3rd string, 7th fret 3rd string, and there's a bend release back to the 5th fret, and then down to the 7th fret 4th string. Okay, so let me back up from, and that's how that sounds all together. There's your F. Right when I slide in, that's where the song goes to the F. And then I came up here and went, very bluesy thing. So what I'm doing for that is I'm sliding from the 7th fret to the 9th fret on the 3rd string. And then I've got my index finger going in on the 6th fret, the 8th fret, 2nd string. And I'm giving that some vibrato. It's kind of a Robert Cray type lick. That's just pattern 2 of the minor pentatonic scale. It looks exactly the same. So there's pattern 1, pattern 2. There's those little 5 notes, just like we learned down here for the major. Now we're doing it in the minor. That's why that works. Okay. Now from here I went, so it's a slide from the 9th fret down to the 7th fret on the 3rd string, 5th fret, 7th fret 4th string, 5th fret 4th string, and then I came down and took my hand off the fretboard and hit that low 5th string, which is an A, and played. Now I use this chord a lot. It's a sus chord, and it's a very easy chord to grab and give kind of a dramatic, sort of an unexpected twist in your lead playing. It's sort of like, is that lead? Is that rhythm? You're playing a chord, but it really kind of works for me. It gives it a real nice melodic sound. Now here's what I'm doing. I've got my middle finger and my ring finger on strings 4 and 3, right here on the 2nd fret. It's just an A chord, but take off your 2nd string. However you want to make that chord. I always make it with these 2 fingers. And it's just 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Those are the string numbers. Okay, so that's how it flows together. Flows together nicely. Because the song at that point goes back to the A. Okay, now I'm going to end this lesson, this part 1 video here, and I'll save the second half for the second video. So let me go ahead and back up, and I'll put everything in. I'll play everything, play through it slowly, and then you'll have this as a final takeaway. And hopefully this makes sense to you. Again, the best way to practice is obviously to put on the jam track and just try and play along, try and get the timing down, get the feel, and you start to realize that, wow, you can just stay in the major pentatonic scale for this whole thing, and it starts to really work. 1 and 2. 2, 3. 2, 3. All right, we'll see you in part 2.